Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Forza 92 podcast. I'm your host, Jack, joined once again by Euan. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. Good after a holiday, well needed.
Yeah, to be fair, you don't look that brown considering you've been in the Middle East.
If you see me, there's a light there, right? If you see me, honestly, I look a different race. It's brilliant. I'm delighted.
Speaking of different races, we are joined by. I hope I get this right. Your mum's favourite Asian, Gurj.
God!
Oh, I had to throw it in there. But Gurj, welcome aboard. Gurj is joining us as our fourth and final host for this season. How are you?
Good, mate. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's been a long time since I've spoke to you, and considering Euan actually lives 2 minutes away, first time I've seen him in about 6 weeks.
It is, to be fair. Yeah.
Mate, honestly,
everyone's favourite Asian is Gurj. It's true. He's the most delightful man in the world. So hopefully everyone enjoys listening.
Apparently, it's you now, based on the fact you've changed race after.
I was going to say.
Oh dear. But yeah, so Gurj is joining us to give the one thing we've been missing, and I'm not happy to be saying this. The one thing we have been missing on this show for a while is a Big Six bias, because actually we've got myself and Euan who are anti-Big Six, but also Luke, who's obviously a Championship fan. So we've brought along Big Six representation to all those people who have thought that we're too critical of them, as Gurj is a Manchester United fan, which leans into the stereotype even more. So today we weren't here last week because we've all been very busy. Euan's been sunning himself up in Dubai. I've been back at work because Leicestershire go back to school about 1 million years before everybody else. Yes, I have. Euan, yeah. So I had my inset days last week, and I was just stupidly busy and had so much to do. So I've been back at work, which is why we missed last week. It was just, not enough hours in the week. So we are back this week. So we've actually got quite a lot to unpick, and I'm going to start with I'll start with the fairly obvious one that because of timing we never got to talk about, but I'm going to say two words that I'm sure we're all really glad to hear, and we won't talk about it for too long. But Mason Greenwood, United have, I think, done a U-turn. I think they were looking to bring him back in, but pressure from external sources and fans has made them sort of make the decision. Gurj, I'll start with you because you are obviously a United fan. Do you think they've made the right call overall?
Yes. To put it plain and simple, the simplest answer is yes, they did. Euan will back me up. I've said multiple times that if they decided to let him back into the club, into that infrastructure, that it would be almost detrimental to the club, to the reputation, to the fan base as a whole, and like irregardless of what may or may not be the truth, if you get, if there's damning evidence as there were, you can't really have that in and around your club, in and around the players, the staff. Like, I think the whole situation is kind of brought to light a few things. One, it does highlight that, that young players especially need looking after more, definitely. I think every club has a responsibility to, educate and look after the young players. That external factors, aka the fans, and have such a big impact where people might think they're not. Newcastle prime example with all the anti-Ashley stuff, us obviously with the Greenwood thing, but how anti-Glazers we all are and stuff like that. The pressure is kind of building and all that sort of stuff. But ultimately, like you said, Jack, it does feel like a U-turn, because I feel like if it had just been left to it, he could be in the United shirt now and there'd be even more pro. But I'm just glad the right thing is made and he's now not coming back to the club. So yeah, ultimately the right decision was made.
I'd concur with everything you said, mate. Euan, from an external point of view, like, it's very easy, and I don't want to lean too much into it because I've been very strong with my opinions on it. But from an external point of view, like, it seemed like it was inevitable he was never going to play again. But then suddenly United came out with the statement in response to the Athletic article. it very much like felt like they were almost saying like they knew best, and they were talking about evidence not in the public domain and things. It's like, well, what evidence is there that's not in the public domain that would make it okay for him to represent the biggest club in the world again?
Yeah, I think what really worried me was the fact that they were almost going, we know more than you, so therefore all of your opinions are wrong. That's kind of how it felt. But we're going to go with your opinions to keep you happy. That's kind of how it felt. And that's really disrespectful to everyone who's involved with Man United. It's disrespectful to football fans in this country, because I'd like to think that, as you know, we've got a pretty bad reputation abroad, but there's certain other countries that would probably have let him come back in and allowed this to kind of happen. I mean, look at what's going on in Spain right now. It's literally mental. You've got other countries like Italy who have to wear red face paint to try and stop domestic violence. You hear about the clubs that are supposedly interested in Mason Greenwood. It sounds like it'll probably be a Turkey or an Italy. That's concerning in itself. So it's good that the country as a whole, in terms of a football community, stood up against this. I think Greenwood himself, in the statement, has been very carefully worded. Some of the things he said, it was like, I've been cleared. No, you haven't. You weren't cleared. It was dropped. There's a big difference. And you're also the father to the child who you're with. You know, like, you've got way too many links there for you to try and claim that you're cleared. You weren't. And there were certain words, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but if you read it again, it's almost like they're trying to get around things and maneuver things rather than take responsibility. And he says, I take responsibility for what I did. Well, you're clearly not. That's the problem. You're clearly not. And my thing is, and it's not just because it's Man United, but Man United have such an influence on so many people across the world. And a lot of boys in my class at the time, they're now a couple of years on, but some of them were really big Man United fans, and they were coming in at 8 and 9 year old asking me about things like rape.
Yeah,
I think that's absolutely insane, that the reach and the influence these people have on young boys and girls. It's not just boys and girls, but it's boys in particular who it affects because of what's gone on. Because they might think, oh well, it's fine. Mason Greenwood did it, and he's playing for Man United, banging goals in, getting worshipped all over again. It's not acceptable. I'm very glad that it has been cut and dry. My only real annoyance is the tone of the statement that was put out, and also some of the sentences that were used in terms of going, well, do you know what? There was things that were shown to us. Well, if it's really, let's be honest, if it was really so like in his favour, they would have leaked it. They've leaked everything else.
And also, if there was everything in his favour, and you wouldn't have dropped charges, you just go to court and prove your innocence. And that's the thing. Nobody's ever going to genuinely believe he's innocent unless it goes through the court process and he is proven innocent. Because there is a huge difference between innocent and not guilty. There's also a huge difference between being found not guilty and the charges being dropped. Yeah. And I think that's what's happened here, is the fact that the charges were dropped. It buys into all the statistics that are out there about domestic violence situations. There's thousands every year that get reported. Hundreds are actually acted upon. Tens go to court, and only single digits are ever actually found guilty. So it's a constant losing battle. But I don't want to go about it too much because I mean we're a week or so behind on the news. But I just thought it's something
that really, isn't it? Given what's happened in, like I said, the Spain national team, where you've got to set a precedent, you've got to set a tone, you've got to hit it hard. And if you hit it hard, it makes people go, "Ooh, don't want to mess with that, don't want to do that, got to be careful." And obviously, I know this isn't great for you, Gurj, because it sounds like beating your club, but there's the Anthony thing coming out, and it makes you think, like, how many of these young lads, and it won't just be Man United players, it'll be players all over the country, think that they can get away with this because they've got this power, this fame, this control. That has to be hit head on. And the only way you're going to do that is by hitting pockets and hitting careers. And as awful as that sounds, you don't want to make examples of people. But for men of that stature to treat women a certain way is very dangerous for young lads growing up. So I'm glad it's been dealt with finally in the right way. And I know Gurj, to be fair to him, has been 1,000,000% behind him never playing for Man United again. So, and I know he's not the only one. I know a few other Man United fans who've been very similar in that opinion. So it's positive to hear that as well, because it's a hard thing. He's a very big talent, probably generational, potentially number 9 for England for the next 10 years. It's a big decision to make, but they've made the right one.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, like being, because obviously you and I are in the education system, and like I feel like you've mentioned there, like kids and adults as well look at these like men as inspirations. Like the England women's team obviously got to the final. They're inspiration to all like young girls who want to get involved in football. And I'm not detracting from that. But as a society, I think we've maybe gone wrong somewhere that we put these people on such a pedestal. And as much as we all love football, and I don't want to take away from that, like we're putting these lads who are no different from any of us. Some of them have come from less fortunate backgrounds than the one that like us three grew up in. But we're expecting them to be model citizens all the time. And ultimately, as much as we adore football, all they're good at is kicking a ball around the pitch. They're not upstanding citizens. They're not model citizens. They're not, unless they choose to, they're not contributing to society. Like, whereas you kind of compare that to, if we look at politics at the moment, or even big business and stuff, there's so many people doing so much dodgy stuff. Why are we not holding them to the same account as we are footballers and things like those are the people we should be looking at as a society and saying, we expect a lot from you. Footballers, we should actually, like Gurj said about, like, we should be nurturing these young men and being like, this is the right and wrong way to behave. But ultimately, you give these kids who are, like in Greenwood's case, did he break through when he was 17? You're giving a kid who's 17, not even an adult yet, massive amounts of money to represent the biggest club in the world. He's not mature. He's not fully developed. He might have had a really vulnerable upbringing like Rashford did. And luckily one's gone one way and one appears to have gone the other. But they both should have had the same support at home and educationally. But there's too much of an emphasis to be an elite footballer. Like at Manchester United, to break into the first team at 17, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of pressure. The eyes of the world are on you. If you're not like perfect, you're going to be scrutinized. And so many players are, like, you really break it down. So many players have issues. Like Jack Grealish is kind of a bit more of a Premier League icon now, but he's had run-ins and like problems with alcohol and drink and stuff. Like, these are not the people we should be putting on a pedestal in society, I think. And that's just, but that's not me as a football fan. That's me as a education sector worker saying that. And I think Mason Greenwood's a really good example based on what you said, Euan, about like how we need to spend much more time when they're younger nurturing these kids, not from a football sense, but from a personal point of view. But
yeah, I think it's also important. I know this is kind of off football a little bit. Have the male role models in schools and in communities where they feel like they can talk to people. Because I know, and I'm sure Jackie will feel the same. And Gurj, you know, I've spoken many a time on a personal level. It's just come up Besiktas Ryan alone for Mason Greenwood on my phone there. So there you go. That tells you a lot. But in terms of stories and influences you can have, you can set the tone and you can really embed so many morals early on, because children aren't born evil. They're just not. It comes from somewhere. We have to try and build this up and do more about it. And I think it's so important that we do that for younger siblings, younger relatives. And then when we're in the community, we set a good example. When we hold doors open, we are polite, we show manners, we try and be as pleasant as possible. And it's not just men, it's women and, you know, young girls as well. But I think there's too much, well, I only give a shit about myself. I don't really give a shit what you think. It's got to be taking responsibility and taking accountability way more than some people do. And that's why the statements concerned me.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. But should we get off the serious stuff and talk about actual football now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Right. Gurj, this is your, I'm paraphrasing you in the group chat. Refs are a bit shit at the moment, aren't they?
Oh, honestly, dreadful. Do you know what it is? Like, everyone has this vendetta as that we get all the decisions, and that may have been true like 10, 12 years ago, whatever.
I mean, it was true 2 weeks ago when Onana decided to frog splash like the Wolves striker, wasn't it?
But then you look at the week after, and definitely one penalty, possibly two penalties not given in the first half against Spurs.
But that doesn't fit the narrative, Gurj. It doesn't fit the narrative. We can't say that because it doesn't.
Also, it was against another Big 16. They can't favour one or the other. It's got to, you know, that's just a bad decision.
Well, that's bad decisions. But then you look at that. We'll go at the Onana one, but that's happened loads of times last season. Wolves did it against Leeds, I believe, was the example that I saw, where it was very similar. And the only difference was Onana, fair enough, he did miss it. And when I was at the stadium, I did think, oh, shit, here we go again. Yeah. And it was a penalty. But if you look at least his eyes were kind of on the balls, and there was no intent to go wipe out a player. He did genuinely try and get the ball. But then you look at the Leeds example where the Wolves keeper just literally just goes, nah, see ya, and then clatters him. So, like, I think the issue, I think we can all agree with it from the lower leagues to the Championship to the Premier League, even in Europe. You just want consistency. You just want one rule to be implemented and you want it to be followed. So I think, and we'll get onto this when we talk about the Newcastle game, but like the new rules that have been implemented for time wasting and for, throwing the ball away and dissent and all that sort of stuff. Like, no one actually knows what's going on, because you look at we'll take our game. Like Rashford gets booked for kicking the ball away after a decision that didn't go his way. Fair enough, yellow card under the new rules. And then one of the other rules is if you even gesture for a yellow card, you by that law you're supposed to get booked. But then, and this was brought up to me by Alistair Euan in your game where Joe Linton,
he did it twice.
Did it twice in the eyes of the ref and didn't get a card. So it's like.
But one thing I will say is, in that game, because we in the stands, Carl had an idea where we all get yellow cards under the seats, and we all give it that because the players now can't. Yeah. But and I know that's tongue in cheek, but why is the player not allowed to express himself in a way? Like if you're gonna ask players to be expressive and stuff, you've got to play on the edge. And some players like Darwin Núñez is the perfect example, right? He came on, he scored 2 goals, and they were unbelievable finishes. The statistics were something like 2. If he did that 100 times, only twice would he be able to do both of those finishes due to XG and all that type of stuff and angles and whatever. He came on, he got booked for kicking the ball away, and he was asking for yellow cards. A player like him needs to be on the edge to be at the best he is. You're almost curbing the personalities of so many players. And Joe Linton's another one. Like, I can't sit here and defend Joe Linton because he clatters everyone every game. But that's what the Premier League's about, isn't it? Like, we go back to Roy Keane, Patrick Vieira. You need that. And he's right. Alistair's right. Like, there's no consistency. But you look at Tommy Asu, who got sent off, having one of those yellows, and then Trent doesn't get sent off.
Exactly. Again, another
it's 2 weeks apart.
Where's the consistency? If Tommy Asu can get booked for then time wasting and
wasn't even there, was it?
Wasn't even. It was just like
was it Rice? Was it Rice before that?
No, he was kind of on. I think they were kind of collectively time wasting, weren't they? It was like
he got the flag,
and then went to take it, and then he threw it to someone else, and then it was. I think he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. But even the Trent one, like the first yellow card, I thought was really harsh. Yes, he did kick the ball away, but it was a foul. He was shoved in the back. He was shoved off the pitch. In my opinion, it was a foul. And I can understand his frustration there. And that's where you kind of have to put some level of common sense into it. Like Trent is going to be pissed off in that situation. It was like, it was a soft foul as far as football goes, but he did get hands in the back. He was pushed over, gave the throwing away. Like, I'd understand. I'd be frustrated too if that was in my position. But then the problem is, once you've already dished out the yellow card, if you are confident that you made the right decision, the second one, again, very soft foul. Don't you? You said you've watched the replays back, and it was very soft.
I think the second one is 1,000,000% a yellow. If he doesn't get the first yellow, he gets that second one dished out literally on the moment he stands up.
Yeah. But it's another soft foul though, isn't it? It's just like a hand on him. He's not actually grabbed him or hit him. It's not all
the cynical edge.
He's trying to block him off. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's the block rather than the physical contact.
If that was done, because it was quite soon after, it was only maybe like a minute.
It was about a minute.
It's like a minute. If that was 5-10 minutes on, I reckon he's off. If that's in the second half, he's definitely sent off. So,
or if both those incidents happen at the start of the second half rather than the start of the first half, he's off. Yeah. But to be fair, I mean, you were glad he was on because actually it was his fault that he scored the goal.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Like, if you were going to say to me, was the first one, was it a foul on Trent? I genuinely in the ground, I thought he's got away with that, and it was one of them where you kind of go, whoa, like, oh look, because you think sometimes you get him, sometimes you don't. But then he's kicked the ball away, and because and I've got to be honest, St. James's is a cauldron. It's like a bear pit at times, right? And you probably sensed it in the first half, especially that as soon as that ball was kicked, all of them fans in that ground are intelligent enough to know what's been going on and what's been said by Howard Webb in all of these meetings and when he's been on telly and when he's been on these podcasts saying, if you kick the ball away, you get a yellow. The whole of St. James's is going to make sure the referee knows about that. So I feel for Trent in that respect. But for Trent to then go make the second decision is stupid on his part. So he would have then, well, it's on you, mate, type thing. The problem I've got is when Gordon kicks the ball away about 10 minutes later, Joe Linton's dished out the 2 yellow card things before. Nunes is, I think, did he get done for kicking the ball away? Or was it dissent?
He
did one of them.
Yellow, he stopped you playing the ball quick. He kicked the ball away. It was like right under the ref's nose as well. And then he tried to play the whole, I didn't know, but it was quite blatantly obvious that he kicked it away.
And then he tried to get someone put second, like a booking or something, which is, again, fair enough. But my point is, we just named about 5 instances in
one game,
the space of 90 minutes, probably not even 90 minutes. You can understand why, and I follow a lot of Liverpool fans, and I've got a hell of a lot of respect for Liverpool fans that I do podcasts with and friends, and I understand where they're coming from. But my point is more that if you're in that ground and you know the rules and you're seeing that they're not influenced, they're not being followed through, and you know that as a fan you can influence it to a degree, we're going to try and take advantage of that, and I think any stadium would. So it's more like what Gurj says, the consistency is appalling. It's absolutely shocking. And when you look at Slobosly's penalty given against Bournemouth.
Oh my God.
But then Rashford's getting hammered this week.
But that was more
the same thing.
Yeah, there was more contact on the Rashford one than there was on the Slobosly one.
Exactly.
Like when I was in the stadium, so I was on the other end, watching it, and he looked like he's gone across him, and it looked fair enough. It wasn't like a clatter, but he definitely gets his right knee.
Rashford's been really clever with it, hasn't he? He's bought it, but there's still contact there. There's definitely contact,
foul, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
Whereas that other one,
you also have to bear in mind that every clip that you see is in slow motion. When you're moving at pace, we've all played the game. When you're moving at pace, when you're going full tilt, if you just get knocked and it's like one leg onto the other, it can send you completely arse over tit, can't it? It's like
Rashford as well. Like, it's not exactly so easy. He's rapid. Mm-hmm. So it's like the slightest touch when you're moving at that speed will knock you off balance. That's just like basic physics, isn't it?
I would rather as well decisions were aired on the side of caution. So when you see them where they're like they're a bit like, oh, not sure type thing, and they get blown, for instance. I'd rather the threshold be much higher for tackles, for, like pushes in the box, tucking on shirts or whatever, until there's a really blatant one, because all you're then going to do is
I think
the clear ones are given.
I'm going to be controversial here. I think tugging on shirts, that needs to get flagged more, because tugging anyone's shirt is a foul. Even if it's just a little bit, you're gaining an unfair advantage and it's a foul. Yeah. And the amount of times it happens, because you can defend without tugging someone's shirt. You've got to be smart. You've got to use your body properly and stuff like that. And there's too many of them that are too lazy, because the art of defending from set pieces is dying. That's why so many people do man marking now and not touch tight, because people can't defend touch tight anymore. Because in normal play, you're not allowed to, because players just go down and they give free kicks away. But also, like, there's so many instances of play. Like, which was the one this weekend? There was one this weekend where somebody fully had hold of him and he went down. It was Thiago Silva, Tom Lockyer, Friday night. Like, Lockyer had hold of Thiago Silva. He completely went. And they went to VAR and they're like, nah, nothing wrong with that. But there's everything wrong with that. He's got hold of him. Like, yeah.
Where do you draw the line on that? Where do you draw a line on pulling a shirt? Because, like, and the worst argument is if that was outside the box. What difference?
It's a foul in there at the end of the day.
Like, say if you were through and it was me and you, like, in a foot race, and I pulled you back by your shirt, last man, whatever, and that was outside the box.
Wherever it is on the pitch, wherever it is.
I'd be a foul, but in that instance, I'd be sent off because, last one. But if I did that and you're in the box, by stuff I've seen on Twitter and all that sort of stuff, it'd be a yellow and a pen. But why wouldn't that? I know the whole double jeopardy thing applies, but that, again, that's nonsense, because if you're dumb enough to foul someone last man in the box,
consequences are consequences.
Consequences. You should be sent off, and it should be a penalty. You shouldn't do it. Do you know what I mean?
I want to move on from the Shearers, because we have got quite a bit to unpick this week. But I've got two more I want to talk about. Obviously, we'll get onto the bit. We'll talk about the Van Dijk one when we actually talk about Liverpool and Newcastle, because it's a big changing moment in the game. But the one I want to talk about, have you seen Calvin Bassey's red card for Fulham?
No.
2 yellows, right? Second one, blatant, like I think it's Saka or Nketiah. One of them knocks it past him and he basically just steps across him. It's his second yellow and he's off. First one, he gets done for time wasting, right? And they do take their time with the goal kick. The problem is I've seen a clip back of it and he's not taking the goal kick because there is an Arsenal player stood in the penalty area.
Oh, wow, really?
So he can't take it. He's not like that player needs to...
Because he's getting an advantage, essentially, isn't he?
Yeah, and he gets booked for time wasting. And they do take a long time over it. But the Arsenal player, I don't know, I think, again, it's Nketiah. He's in the box. So the ref's got to go, no, you come out the box. And then if he doesn't take it, then you dishing out the yellow cards. 100%. But I can't remember where I saw it, but he's in the box. But anyway, that was a great result for Fulham. But anyway, we'll dive into the big game. Euan, you were there. Me and Gurj were watching on TV, as you saw. We were thoroughly enjoying a lot of what was going on. It was a great game for the neutral. I'll be honest. It's probably the game of the season so far. For not necessarily for goals, but just controversy, talking points. It was proper Barclays, wasn't it? It was a proper.
It's good football. It was genuinely good football. Like I know. This is from just obviously speaking to you, Ross and Carl, Euan. Yeah. The football you play under Howe and seeing it firsthand at Old Trafford, like when these all get going, they are impressive. And I think Liverpool very much struggled. Like they did. I think they struggled in the first 20 minutes. And I've said this multiple times. I've said, and Euan won't thank me for saying it, but Newcastle just didn't finish their dinner. Like they just didn't. And I think it cost them. But as you said, Jack, prime Barclays. It was great to watch, and I was so happy because, as we all know, I hate the Scousers. So I was like, buzzing, unreal, great weekend. And
I made a point in the group chat, and I don't know if you saw it, but a couple of people pushed back on it. Do you think that? I mean, if you look at the substitutes that were made, and this is the point, we won't go on to Eddie Howe, but do you think that? I know a lot of people have kind of said that Howe got it wrong, and I'll ask you that question later on. But when you look at the substitutes that were made in terms of the players that were coming onto the pitch, in terms of challenging again near the top end of the league, are you concerned about your depth? Because when I was looking at the players Liverpool were able to bring on, and then the players you were, I was a bit like, I could kind of see it happening here. When I was like, Liverpool seemed to be growing into the game. I was sort of thinking, who's more out of the players that are coming on? When it was 1-1, I was like, who's more likely to be a match winner? And out of all the players you brought on, I thought you are now significantly weaker than you were at the start of the game. Whereas Liverpool, actually, I thought they were stronger. They had a focal point in the team. They had like for like players coming on. I was kind of
it's impossible to match Liverpool's quality in that attacking position. It's just impossible. Like they have probably the strongest depth across the front three in the league, I would say, even over Man City, only because of numbers, only because of sheer numbers of players they have and the versatility of some of those lads. Like if you think last year they had Firmino to add to that as well, and the season before they had Mane as well. Like they've lost 2 and they're still that strong. Like that's how much depth they've got. Ben Doak's coming through as well, who's an unbelievable talent. So I don't necessarily think it's us being weak. I think it's them being strong.
See, I'm going to push back on it just ever so slightly because I don't think Liverpool's front three was their squad in that their squad depth in that area is unparalleled. What I was kind of referring to, and I should have been more specific about it, so I apologise, was that at the start of the game, your midfield was clear by a mile. They took Endo off. They took their defensive linchpin, even though I thought he was quite poor, off and put on Harvey Elliott, who's an attacking player. And yet when you made your changes and you took off Joe Linton and Sandro Tonali, suddenly their midfield ran the show. The momentum suddenly shifted. And that's their attacking prowess is unrivaled. I think they have a better front three plus depth than Man City. Problem is Man City is stacked throughout the whole starting 11. When you took off Tonali and Joe Linton and you brought on Anderson and Longstaff, suddenly Liverpool were like, I fancy this here. We've got this now. The momentum's with us. We've got the quality in the middle and final third. That's when I saw it kind of shifting.
Yeah, I disagree personally. Because not with those lads you've named, but I'm taking into account the fact that Joe Willock's injured. So if Joe Willock's fit, he comes on before both of those lads.
Yeah.
And he stretches the game even more because of his legs and his pace and his power. So I think you've got to consider the injury situation there. Longstaff last season was probably the reason we got Champions League, because when, I don't know if you remember when we got beat 3-0 at Villa, we had the Willock, Joe Linton and Bruno midfield, and we got bypassed so easily. So Longstaff, in theory, is a good substitution to see the game out. The problem was Bruno dropped into the 6 more than Longstaff did. So I wouldn't necessarily say it was the personnel. It was the strategies with the personnel we used.
Do you think you were found guilty of trying to chase the win rather than going, let's just take a point here? Because a point against Liverpool in any situation, granted, in that situation, you should have won. But actually, at the start of the game, if you said a point against Liverpool, you'd probably take it, right?
100%. But I know the chances thing. Gurj, spot on with the chances. Like, we didn't take our chances. But at the end of the day, Alisson's like an unbelievable goalkeeper. And to be fair, I still don't think that Almiron one was in the corner. It's a phenomenal save. Not taking anything away from that.
But it comes at him really fast. Really,
it does. But he's missed 3 opportunities. He should have had a hat trick. There's no two ways about it. The one he's hit the post is unlucky, but he still should have hit the target because he hasn't. The one that fell to him on about 10 yards out, he should have hit. The fact he didn't even hit the target there is criminal. It's appalling because he does it all the time. He did it 3 times at Chelsea on the last day of the season last year as well. That's where I would argue the standard is not good enough. We don't kill games off frequently enough. We can do it. We saw it against Villa. We can do it. The problem I've got most is, why didn't we just say to them, come and get the ball off us? Yeah. It was almost like we were going, we're at the Gallagher, we're at home, we could put these to the sort. What? Hang on a minute, lads. We haven't beaten Liverpool in like 22 attempts.
Yeah, sometimes you got to be boring, haven't you?
Yeah, and it was really frustrating because if you said, what do Liverpool want with 10 men? They want to sit behind the ball and catch you on the break. We literally just played on the halfway line and they kept nicking the ball off us because, to be fair, Szoboszlai and McAllister were brilliant. Like, I was really impressed with a pair of them. I don't think they were that great first half, but the second half after Endo went off, they improved for some reason. I don't know why. So when you've got Salah on the break, when you've got Nunes on the break, when Jota caught us out a couple of times as well, why are we not sitting in and saying, you've got to break us down here? Because if you get Dan Burn and Matt Targett running at their own goal, you're going to beat them in a foot race. Yeah. And as soon as we were playing, I wouldn't say a high line. I wouldn't say it was a high line, but it was a higher line than probably necessary. We're going to get killed.
They were playing on the middle third, weren't they, basically?
Yeah. I couldn't understand it. So I understand what you're saying in terms of the level coming on, but Anderson was probably our best player in pre-season. Longstaff helped us get top 4. Those lads have shown they are capable of doing those things. And I would actually say Anderson should be our first substitute at the minute, because Wilson came on and was so ineffective. He didn't even make a pass.
Yeah, it's a bit of a drop-off, isn't it? It is, as much as he's got a really good goals per game ratio, there is a bit of a drop-off there, isn't there, in terms of impact on the game.
Play and stuff. It's
if you compare him to Isak, it's like night and day, because
Wilson's a box player. He's in between the sticks. Yeah. Isaac can go onto the halfway line and beat 6 men and get the ball in the box or take a shot. And Barnes, as much as I was very, very in favour of signing Barnes, not to the extent of losing Maxi.
Hang on. Am I about to be proven right? Am I about to be proven right?
Probably to a degree, yeah. But I don't disagree with what you're saying. I just think if he wants to play in a top 4 team, which essentially we were last season, there's no way of getting away. And Anthony Gordon was the best player on the pitch until he went off.
Yeah.
You have to do more than what you're doing. And I'm not saying he didn't do enough, but there was a moment where it's literally Wilson and him and a defender in the middle, and he fucks the chance up. If he puts the ball in like he did against Villa, we kill them off 2-0.
So this is my thing, and I watched the game. Bear in mind, I was significantly drunk when I watched the game where he played Man City last week. But the one thing I said about Barnes, and I will never deny he's a good player and he's got a brilliant output, but his output is always in those games where you are on top. Like I said, against Man City, he came on and he was ineffective. Yesterday, he came on and he was ineffective because I said this, like he's got a better output than Sam Maximin. Fact. That's just statistically proven. But Sam Maximin is a player that will pick the ball up in your own half and carry you 70 yards up the pitch. Yeah. Barnes won't do that. And that's what you needed against City. It's what you needed against Liverpool.
If you said Villa, when they come on, Maxi.
Yeah, because you needed someone to carry up the pitch. The problem is when he gets up the pitch, Barnes is more likely to create something or score something. But it's and that's the thing. As I think Barnes is a brilliant squad player for you. But I don't think, and this is somebody, I mean, you've watched him play competitively for you 3 times. I watched him play competitively for us over 100 times. Like, he's a great player, great output, good goal scorer. He's not, if he is kept quiet, you might as well have 10 players on the pitch. Because,
You
again,
can see that.
All I'd have said to him if I was Howard Tindall is just gone, Trent's still on a yellow, just burn him. You're fresh. He's not. Play behind him, cheat a little bit, and try and.
That's one thing that confused me as well. Trent's on a yellow card. He's on the yellow card for a good, maybe 70 minutes left of the game?
Probably 80.
Probably 80 plus, yeah.
But after those 2 incidences, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't actually recall an instance of like Newcastle attacking his side.
I think the problem we've got there is they started getting Spursy to come in and like almost double up on Gordon. So Gordon ended up going inside, and that's where. Do you remember Gordon's chance where he just put it wide? It was really unlucky. He cut inside at our end. That looked. I haven't actually seen the replay of that, but that looked probably maybe an inch away. So it looked like we were trying to. Maybe Gordon was going inside and he was beating them on the inside, which I didn't mind. But that's where we need like a Lewis Hall at left back. Because I'm a big Dan Burn advocate. Gurj, you know me and Carl had it out about Matt Targett and Dan Burn. And Matt Targett is not a patch on Dan Burn. He's just not. He's a bottom half of the table left back. And fair play to him because he's steady as out. But he doesn't offer enough, and neither does Burn. So Lewis Hall can go on the inside, he can go on the outside. And that's why Joe Linton has to do the overlap on the outside of Gordon. As soon as we kind of felt like we need to take this game to them, it was almost like we just wanted to be a metronome and go back and back. And we didn't get any balls in the box because Alisson's a good goalkeeper and he can hit it long. But if you don't get the balls in the box, you're not going to score anyway. So we were just dallying. And I think that's where you're right. We didn't go at them enough because we didn't have a reason to, in a way. It was almost like we were just trying to pass them to death and tire them out, which works to some teams. But you're talking about Liverpool, one of the fittest teams in the country.
Yeah.
Oh, that's frustrating.
And then I think I mentioned it very briefly, but like we've all said it just in this conversation, you've missed Saint-Maximin there, because I was thinking when I was like, imagine you're a right back on a yellow card. There's only a few players you don't want to face, and he was definitely one of them, because I remember cup final, Carabao, he had Dal on skates. Do you know what I mean? And like I even said to you, well, I said it in the chat, like I was like, why hasn't he started Wan-Bissaka? But like, if you had maybe that sort of player, maybe like even Lewis Hall when he comes on, but different story, because he would just keep going at him. And Trent, and I will die on this hill and say he is a horrible defender. He can't defend. He's a glorified right winger, in my opinion. Very good glorified right winger. I'm just going to point that out, but he just can't defend as well as he needs to.
What I thought was interesting was, because I don't know if you know, when he should have had the second yellow, Alisson, I don't know if it showed it on telly, Alisson ran all the way up to the halfway line when they had a corner at our end, and basically put his hands on his head and was like, fucking start thinking. And Van Dijk was constantly talking to him, and it was almost like he had to be coached through the game. Now, they've just made him Liverpool's vice-captain. If he's senior enough, he shouldn't have to be having those conversations with Alisson and Van Dijk. No. And I will quickly say on the Van Dijk thing, how anyone can say that's not a red card is beyond.
Did you see my my argument that I had with him? So I'm going to shout him out because I actually got a lot of respect for him. So the guy called Stuart Quigley, right? And we had a bit of a set to on Twitter because I was like, it's a red card, and he was like, no, it's not. Like, and then he was like, oh, we dived, and I was like, hang on. But I replied being like, no, I didn't realize you were taking the piss. And then he replied, to be fair, and was like, no, I'm annoyed, I'm angry, like I am a little bit. And he was really good after that. But like, so many people would say that and stick with it. But the fact that he came out and was like, no, but it was like, he wasn't the only one. Loads of people I saw were like,
do you know why it was? I'm like, it's a Liverpool fan.
Oh, Jamie.
No, but it was before that. It was even before that. Like that, it was before what he said at half time. But I'm like, but I saw some people say like, oh, he got the ball. I'm like, you can't go through someone and get because that's not getting the ball. You've gone through the man. Yeah. If you get the ball clean, fair play. They're like, he literally takes Isak's leg away, and then kicks the ball.
Do you know
like
what?
if the rule is all you have to do is but he rolled him. And I saw somebody else say there was somebody on the cover. I watched it again. I'm like, there's no one on the cover.
Van Dijk's about 3 yards behind everybody else.
And Isak, the kind of player he is, if you're telling me that, he probably hits that first time, or he takes one touch and then hits it.
You might try and dink him. I mean, we've seen him do it twice at Liverpool anyway last season at their place.
It is Alisson. So in terms of it being a goal scoring opportunity, that alone reduces the percentage of it being a goal because he's a phenomenal goalkeeper. But
you can't take into account the players because
it could have been
get Adrian and it could have been Dwight Gale. He's going to irrelevant in that respect.
Yeah, but he's going to get a shot off there. The one thing is he's going to get a shot off, and an elite level striker coming into the 18-yard box, clean through on goal. That's a goal scoring opportunity. It is, and it's outside the box as well. If it was inside the box, it's a yellow because I do think it's an honest attempt to play the ball. Outside of the box,
he did try and play the ball.
Yeah, outside the box though, it's dogzo. It's a red card because, and I'm with that. And I think there's a lot of people who have either never played the game or don't understand the rules.
It's red tinted glasses for a lot of them because I know some Liverpool fans who are like, "Nah, it definitely is, 100% it is." And then you've got some who just almost want to be antagonistic to the point of like partisan beyond belief.
It's because it's because a lot of Liverpool fans believe that everyone's against them, when realistically, there's so much bias towards them. And like, I will have this argument with anyone, but there is a big bias towards them, and like people are in favour of them. And I do think, and this is the only time I will give him credit, but Klopp has contributed to that. In his early years, he's now a bit of a prick. And I think me and Euan we just can't stand him.
As a manager, he's unbelievable, but as a bloke, he's becoming less likable by the season.
Yeah, but as a bloke,
he's turning into a bit of a Mourinho, isn't he? You're like, how everyone used to love Mourinho, but now they're a bit like, mate, just shut up.
Yeah.
But you still can't take away from what he does. Yeah.
I understand why Liverpool fans love him. I would love him if he was my manager. But I can't abide the shitty. I mean, did you hear his interview? It's an active foul or something, an active tackle or the tackle was active. Fuck off! You made words up.
Every tackle was active, isn't it?
Like arsehole, man.
So that's what
hang on.
Oh,
I've heard something through the grapevine.
Go on.
It could have been killed.
Oh, that's right. It's time. It's Fergie time, everybody.
That was smooth. That didn't take 10 seconds at all.
Hang on. I just knew we'd end up going down a massive rabbit hole, and we don't have that long left because Euan's got to go play football. So for those new listeners, and even for those people who've listened and heard before, and for the two lads here who've not actually played this game before, this is Fergie time. It is our new game for this year. We are still going to play Obscure Footballer of the Week, but it's slightly different. So I will give Gurj and Euan 30 seconds to name as many of a topic as they can. The topic this week is the top 20 goalkeepers in Premier League history with the most saves. How many of those players do you think you could name in 30 seconds? I mean, I think we could name all. If we had all day, we could name all 20. But in 30 seconds, how many of the top 20 saves?
Isn't this meant to be like how many teams can you name in blue? Not ridiculously hard questions.
That's not. If I'm looking at the list in front of me, right? It's not.
I'm trying to get a reflection in your glasses.
But there is when I did this with Tom and Blakey, they were like, when you're on the spot, it's really hard.
Yeah, no.
But the list on here is really obvious. So who thinks they could name more?
Right, who's going first?
I'll start with the regular. Euan, I'll start with you. How many do you think you could name in 30 seconds? You got the top 20. How many do you think you could name?
6.
Wow, that's low ball, isn't it? I think now. What's that like? Expect disappointment. What's that like? Expect disappointment and you'll never be disappointed. Is it one of them?
Exactly. I'm a Newcastle fan, Jack.
Gurj, raise that or call bullshit?
No, I reckon I could do 9.
9. Well, that's a jump. That is
bullshit. Fucking. I'm not doing 10. That's the only reason I'm saying.
That jump is kind of unfair because basically, Gurj, if you can't get this, Euan then has 30 seconds to try and name 6.
Ooh,
But
okay.
I will. But because
all right, okay.
but because you've named 9, I will detract the ones that you have said.
So I've got the fucking hard job.
No, because I don't know who Gurj is going to say, do I? Right.
You don't know what I'm
you've
going to say.
Right,
Jesus,
Gurj,
I didn't think I get 7. Now you're asking me to get the 6 he doesn't get.
Well, technically there'd be 11 left.
There'd be 11. Yeah.
So I'm going to time you, and when your time is up, you will hear.
He could have been killed.
So that's what we're listening out for.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool.
Right, you've got 30 seconds, Gurj, starting from now.
David James, David De Gea, Edwin van der Sar, Petr Cech, David Seaman, Jens Lehmann. Shit. Alisson, Edison, Joel Hart, Shea Given.
Leave me some.
How long have we got left? I don't know.
He could have been killed.
So
Tried.
you got.
You did well there. I don't know how many. I would have said most of them. God, 10.
3.
Really?
Really?
Jesus.
Jeez.
Okay, right.
Well, proper ones I'm missing
So-
here.
And
Like,
now I've got to get 6.
The ones that you said, Gurj, were Joe Hart. Actually, no, you got 2. It was Joe. Who else did you say?
This is hard, this.
You said Petr Cech and Joe Hart. You got 2 out of 20.
nice.
Oh my God, I would have literally said all the others he said.
I know that's must be people went missing.
Okay.
Oh, I know.
You can't say Joe Hart or Petr Cech,
Right.
but you have got 30 seconds to try and name 6 others.
Shit.
Think
Right.
about it though. Think about it, because he said
Okay.
a load, hasn't he? He
Yeah.
said loads, and they're not
I
right.
think I go on, right. Okay, when we starting?
3, 2, 1, now.
Brad Friedel, Paul Robinson, Tim Howard, Richard Wright, Scott Carson, Chris Kirkland, Ben Foster, Jordan Pickford. I'm going to go Peter Schmeichel as well.
He could have been killed.
Everyone's really bad at this game. Really bad. Nobody's got it yet. Nobody's got it yet.
The lower teams is what we should have gone for.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
that's what
Just
I tried to do.
Lower teams and longevity.
That's what I tried to do.
got-
Brad Friedel, Tim Howard.
Yep. So you only got. Oh, I gave you the 5th one at the end, which was on the buzzer. But you could have had the top 20 are Ben Foster is number 1, David De Gea number 2.
I said hey, didn't I?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he
Oh,
did.
so that was the
He did.
third. Sorry, that was the
yeah,
third.
you got 3.
Yeah.
You got 3.
Yeah, Lucas Fabianski,
Wow.
Bollocks. He has played for so long as well.
He's still at
Petr
West
Cech,
Ham.
Petr Cech, Tim Howard, Hugo Lloris, Joe Hart, Jussi Jääskeläinen,
Fuck
Mark,
off.
Mark Schwarzer,
Damn.
Casper,
Casper.
Robert Green.
That's who I
Pickford.
was trying to think of. I was like Scott Carson, Chris Kirkland, Rob Green, all the shite ones. You know the ones I'm on about.
Pickford,
Offensive, you're listening, lads.
Brad Friedel, Asmir Begovic, Tim Krul.
I did think that one, but I didn't know if he played long enough in the Prem because we got relegated and
Yeah, but he went for Norwich as well, didn't he?
yeah, but I think it was only 1 year in the Prem.
Simon Mignolet,
Oh,
Wayne Hennessy, Aurelio Gomez, Pepe Reina, and one Nicholas Pope.
Oh, Pope.
One of you said Paul Robinson, but he's 21st. David
Damn,
James
that was-
23rd. Shea Given 24th. So those 3, I felt really hard. And Alisson is 32nd. Scott Carson's 31st. So I felt harsh excluding them, but I'm not being funny. I don't know if you can't really see.
Oh, we can't see
let,
that.
let me turn my brightness down. Right. Yeah. Oh, God, I don't want to know John Ruddy's personal details. Right. Look how long this list is.
Oh my days, right? Okay.
I wasn't doing all of them.
Here's a quiz for you to do in your own time. I think I mentioned it to
You did, yeah, you did.
I did this pissed in Manchester on Saturday night, and it is Premier League top goal scorers by letter of alphabet. So it's
Aguero.
It is Aguero, yeah. But like, there's some proper off-it ones. That,
Oh,
like,
absolutely. But it's like top scorer by. There's some that are like top scorer by nationality as well, and like some players have got like 3. But like if you go to like Oman, for example, I'm pretty sure Ali Al Habsi never scored. So, just showing off now. Right,
that was good knowledge.
So a few things I want to talk about, right? Because we haven't got that long left, because obviously Euan's got to shoot. So I want to try and be quick about it. I want to talk very briefly. Spurs looking good under Big Ange. Arsenal look a little bit toothless. Everton, surely it's their year to go. And if we get time, Brighton, West Ham, but I'm sure both of those teams will have. So we'll start with the one that is kind of most interesting and also most bitter for me. Everton's time surely up, isn't it now?
Yeah.
That's a dog, honestly.
They can't spend money either. And they're knackered. They've just bought Beto, but they're having to sell it Wobie to do it, apparently.
Yep. And the thing is, right, I've never had an issue with them, but recently, over the past few years, they've just gone really annoying. And I kind of want to see him go down with that new stadium, because I think that'll be just perfect.
Because cutting deep there, like.
Oh, it'd be brilliant, wouldn't it? Like,
no, but it's kind of I kind of agree with it, because like our owners kind of did the same, and like you and we've talked about my opinion towards our owners. I'm not going to put it on air again, like, and how I think the jury's out a little bit at the moment, but like we did the same. Like we were like, oh, we're going to build a brand new stand, we're going to turn the ground into like 40,000 seat stadium. I'm like, well, fucking good luck filling that in the Championship. And we've not heard anything about it since we got relegated. So it's the same with Everton. They've fully invested into it now. If they go down with that, they're because actually I think if they go down, Goodison will be one of the best things about them coming back up straight away.
Yeah, you're right, Jack. Spot on. What I think is quite.
I just think they can't score goals either. They ain't got a goal scorer, and that's kind of similar to Arsenal. Nobody in that team knows how. Are they the only team in the league that hasn't scored a goal yet?
Well,
honestly, let me have a look at the table.
Luton.
Yeah, Luton haven't scored. They've only played 2 games, haven't they?
No, Luton scored against Brighton, didn't they? Luton scored. Carlton Morris scored a penalty.
Yes. No, that's right. It was
Luton. So have Everton not scored a goal in the league?
I don't think so.
They haven't.
Who did they play first? So they've lost all 3, haven't they? It says they've got a goal difference of -6, but they only got pasted by Villa, didn't they? They lost 1-0 and 1-0, didn't they?
Yeah, that's right.
So they hadn't scored a goal yet. And Luton, to be fair, played 1 less game, so and still scored more goals than them.
I didn't. Just quickly on Luton, I didn't think they looked bad against Chelsea. Like, obviously there was a massive gulfing difference, but
I think games against that. Like, I remember like when Leicester first got promoted, like they're kind of a free hit, so you do tend to play better because you just like everyone's predicting us to lose anyway. Chances are we're going to lose. We might as well just play with a bit of freedom. It's those games against teams around you where they look really like nervous and like kind of apprehensive. And I don't know. But speaking of teams that I think are going to be down there, and we'll go to this game, Bournemouth v Spurs. I want to talk more about Spurs, but I thought Bournemouth looked pretty good, actually. I thought they really took the game to Spurs, and I think they're recruiting really well. I don't think they'll have much of a... They've had quite a tough start to the season. I don't think they'll have many issues. But Spurs look not very Spursy at the moment.
The thing about Spurs is they've got a man who takes no shit. Being a Celtic fan as well, and I've just been in Dubai, and there's a big Celtic base out there. It was really nice, actually. I kind of...
they're probably all burn over there, aren't they? But they're all ginger.
Honestly, I'll tell you what. Some of them, honestly, were like frying eggs on the floor. But there was a big like Celtic base out there, and we got chatting, and they couldn't be more complimentary. Given that they've got Rodgers back, they are not happy with the way he plays. And when you think about what Ange did, I know Jack, right?
Proven, honestly.
Just tick them all off tonight, man.
Don't listen to the media, mate. Listen to the people that watch that shite every single week.
Exactly. They got beat. They got knocked out the cup at the weekend, and they've got a draw, I think, against St. Johnson. So straight away, Ange has left, and they've dropped off, and they've got the same players, and they've actually invested quite well. So Ange has come in and he said, "This is how I'm playing. If you don't like it, fuck off." That's literally what he said. And you think about the little bits of recruitment he's done. So he's got Maddison in, and I know obviously Jack, you've got an opinion on Maddison, but you said to me when we
I think he's phenomenal. I think he's a phenomenal player.
He is one of the best players in the league, and that's probably going to be proven. But when you look at what he's doing to players like Bissouma and Udogie, who came in because obviously he was loaned out last season, he's looked at them players and he's gone, I know what I can do with you, and I'm going to get you playing to the best of your ability. He'll do well there as long as he manages expectations and he keeps being as likable as he is. He could do a very good job there.
I'm going to put this on record now about Maddison, though. I've never taken away from how good a player he is, but the way he is playing right now for Spurs, he did not play like that for Leicester for probably 9 months.
Yeah,
and especially after Rodgers was sacked, he just wasn't bothered because he's one of them people who, if he likes a manager, he's fully on side. And when Rodgers was sacked, I think he had a close relationship with Rodgers. I think that he just wasn't happy. And you look at the way I think Ange has brought him in. And he's kind of said to him, now Kane's gone, you're kind of like the linchpin of the side. He likes that. He likes being, for want of a better term, the centre of attention because he's a fantastic footballer. And at Leicester he was. But then suddenly when Rodgers came in and Dean Smith's kind of bringing in a bit more of a attritional kind of football to try and grind out results. You look at the two best performances we had under Dean Smith was beating Wolves in his first home game and then drawing away at Newcastle. Maddison didn't start either of those games. And I think Smith had to kind of say to him, like, I've got to sacrifice you to try and grind out results. I'm going to play 5 at the back. Spurs, he goes in Spurs, Kane leaves. Suddenly Maddison becomes the guy. And he is playing like that. He's against United, he was fantastic. Against Bournemouth, he absolutely ran the show. And that's kind of thing. I'll never detract from how good a footballer he is. But that's why a lot of Leicester fans are, despite how good he was for us, unhappy with him because he clearly wasn't that bothered.
I think with Spurs, they look better without Kane. And don't get me wrong, Harry Kane is a very, very good player. I know you have your opinions on him. But like, he's a brilliant player and you can't take that away from him. But they look so much better because they don't have that. I don't know, like Kane, like he has a habit of dropping in deep and going into like centre mid and calm, but it's like you just want him up front. But he kind of wanted to take over. It felt like I didn't watch Spurs massive amounts, but from what does it with England though, he like wants to like kind of
too reliant on him, weren't they?
Pardon?
Like, too reliant. It's like give Harry the ball, give Harry the ball, give Harry the ball.
Exactly. And then now that they've got
Maddison,
they've got a system, and Maddison can kind of free flow, and like I said, Bissouma looks good, and Son hopefully might get back into that goal scoring form where he doesn't have to like. Usually it felt like when Son had the ball and he was cutting it, it's like, oh, is Kane there so I can give him the ball, or can I actually do it myself, kind of thing. So I think Spurs will do well this season. I don't know how well, but I think they will do well. And I think they do look better without Kane.
I think their fans will probably accept a few losses on the way if there's going to be a style implemented. Because under Conte and I can't remember the other bloke.
Nuno.
No, the one who came in, Conte's assistant. I can't remember his name. But when he came in and they just had no style, no substance, at least they've got that now, and at least they've got the whole Kane thing out the way. It's out their hair. They can go, right, he's gone. We don't have to stress about this for another 9-10 months and worry about contract situations. And they've also got a bit of money to spend. You hear Brennan Johnson's another one they're on about. Can guarantee Ange will do well with him as well. So yeah, I think they'll be all right. I think they'll be all right.
Sorry to cut you short there, boys, but we are short on time, and obviously Euan needs to shoot off. So I will do one last thing before we go, and I want one-word answers from both of you. But I've got 2 questions, but one-word answers from each. Arsenal, I think they need a striker, and I think it's fairly obvious that they need a striker. Jesus is a great player, but not the sort of person who's going to fire you to a title. I'll ask you the question: do they need a striker? Second question to both of you: who?
I'm guessing.
I'm going to start, and I'm going to say yes, they do. And if I was them, I'd break the bank and try and sign Gonzalo Ramos.
He's just gone to PSG.
Then not him. João Mario would be a good shot as well.
I think Tony when he's out of his ban.
So they have to wait till January then, basically.
Yeah, but they're not going to win the league this season anyway. I don't think.
I'd say yes too, and I think if they're going to break the bank, they should go for Osimhen because dangerous player, and he's bagged last night as well for Napoli. So like I think he
that must hurt you, Gurj, does it? Saying that.
It does, but we've got Rasmus, so we'll wait and see. You know, but I've made my stances on a United striker clear, and I've said I'd rather get someone in younger who can.
Osman's only 23, 24, isn't he?
I thought it was older. I thought it was a bit
No,
less.
he's only
young.
early 20s.
Okay,
He's
then,
not
yeah,
as young as Hoyland, to be fair. Like, he's
then,
4 or 5
to
years
be
old.
fair, yeah, he's quite heartbreaking, but he's he's injury prone.
I'm going to say this because it's the end of the podcast and I don't think Ross and Carl will get this far, but Ollie Watkins wouldn't be a bad signing. And I hammer him a lot just to wind them two up because of FPL. So he's not, when you think about how much he involves others as well, maybe he wouldn't be a bad signing, but don't tell him.
Well, he does suit Arsenal because he does like to bottle it as well. So
honestly, I think he would be.
Would be though.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Osimhen or Watkins, like you mentioned, wouldn't be a bad shout either.
Fair enough. Right, we are done for another week. Gurj, thank you so much for joining us. Gurj is obviously going to be part of our team regularly now, so you'll be hearing a lot more from him. Euan, same dulcet tones as always. So thank you for joining us once more. That's right. We've always got to work around you, mate, haven't we? You're the one that had to go early.
Don't make me feel bad, man. Honestly, right.
Have fun at football.
I will.
Yeah, right. So please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating on Spotify, and we will. I'll be back on Thursday with Luke, of course, doing our championship roundup, and we will see you next week. Thank you very much.